Hey everybody, Elgin Walker here, EXP Realty. Can you tell? And part of the Elgin and Paul Walker team. So just want to talk a little bit here about some of the changes that are going on in the industry that start this week. Was some of us have already started, and this week is, from my understanding, nationally the hard stop week where everybody must start doing the new rules based upon the NAR, National Association of Realtors, versus the DOJ, the Department of Justice settlement that is requiring certain things from all real estate professionals, along with buyers and sellers. So we're going to start, and we're going to try to keep this in cliff notes because there's some things that are fluid, and there's some things that are different from state to state. So I'm in California, so I'm only talking about what's going on as I understand it in our state, and we are going to start with buyers. So previously, as a buyer, although there were buyer broker agreements that some agents would have buyers sign, they were not something that was a mandatory thing. So now, prior to you viewing a home, this does not include open houses. This is just you've driven by a house, you've called up, there's a sign, whatever the case may be, and you want to see that particular home, or you've seen it online on Zillow or Redfin or whatever the case may be, and you want to see that home. You now, prior to seeing the house, have to enter into a buyer broker's agreement. Now, there are different types of buyer broker agreements. Like there's some that are just for looking at that one particular home. There's some if that you're actively looking and you're hiring your realtor to work on your behalf. That's going to be the more quote unquote standard one. But that is basically what will need to be done prior to showing the home. Now, that's not a big deal, to be honest. But as part of that, the real estate agent that you are going to use hopefully is someone that has shown you some value that you believed in, that you trust in, that will be able to represent you, because there needs to be compensation in that agreement. The reason that there's compensation in that agreement is the Department of Justice wants to make sure that both buyers and sellers understand with full transparency what the realtors and everyone else for that matter is making as far as compensation in the transaction. So whatever that fee is that your real estate agent is charging for his or her services, that needs to be agreed upon upfront. Now, that is a negotiable item. There is no set standard fee. It is a negotiable item. It can also be a flat rate. It is a negotiable item between you as a buyer and the agent that you're hiring to represent you. Now, what the immediate question should be is there still options to where, as previously, the sellers can quote unquote pay compensation to the buyer's realtor? Yes, that is still an option. It just now has to be negotiated. So, in the course of writing your offers, in the course of your agent working with you and showing you, et cetera, then at that particular point, as part of the negotiation, the seller may agree to pay the amount that's in your buyer's agreement, may agree to pay part of it. For that matter, they may not agree to pay any of it. And then obviously, as a buyer, you have to decide if you want to move forward with the transaction, with the opportunity. So, in a nutshell, buyers, you're going to have to sign a buyer's agreement with an agent that specifically has compensation in the agreement prior to go showing a home. This is kind of like being pre-approved ahead of time. I personally believe that down the line, as the industry gets used to this, it's actually a much more professional way of doing business for both the consumer and for the agent. There's going to be some hiccups. There's some things that if it were me personally, I would have liked to see different, but this is where we're at. And that's for our buyers, okay? Sellers, we've got a whole nother set of quote unquote rules. Well, excuse me. Let me go back to one more thing with the buyers. I'm sorry. Buyers, you do have the option, because this is going to happen. Buyers, if you call, say, the listing agent directly, for instance, and you want to view a property and you do not want to sign, although I believe that you should, you do not want to sign a buyer's broker agreement with that agent. You do have the option of being what's called an unrepresented buyer. And if you come in as an unrepresented buyer, you can come in and make your offer and all of that. But here's the deal. The big deal is that if you come in completely unrepresented, the listing agent cannot work on your behalf. So the listing agent will help with paperwork, et cetera, things that need to be done to facilitate the closing, but the agent is not going to be allowed to quote unquote negotiate, give opinions, et cetera, et cetera. So in my opinion, that is not necessarily something that you would want to do. Now you would have the option of paying, if the listing agent is acceptable to that, a different type of fee for service to be represented here in California. That would still be allowed. And so anyway, now on the seller side of this, back to the sellers. When you are signing your listing agreement, previously what was done was that there would be an agreed upon commission between you and the listing agent. And from that listing agent's commission, the agent would share commission with the buyer's representative. That's no longer allowed. As a listing agent, we are no longer allowed to quote unquote share commission with the buyer's representative. So on your listing agreements with agents, you will be looking at only the percentage that you'll be paying your listing agent to help you get your home sold. You are not required to pay the buyer's agent's commission. Now you are allowed to agree up front to still pay a buyer's agent commission, or you can just at least be agreeable to at least getting offers with the buyer's agent's commission on them, but they're not called commissions, they're concessions, they're buyer concessions, which, to be very honest, sellers, you're going to see that probably anyway, because over 80% of the homes that are sold with a cooperating broker. So if you're not prepared to do anything, there's about 80% of the market that you may not see your home, or just may not be able to purchase your home, or whatever the case. But this is your legal right. Legally, you're only going to be working with the listing agent on commission. And from there, you can agree to still pay a buyer's agent a commission, but it will not be a shared commission. It's in a separate agreement that states that basically that the listing agent will be paying the buyer's agent directly. You can choose not to pay the buyer's agent at all. You can state that you are open to quote unquote seller concessions. And with those seller concessions, as offers come in, we negotiate. And part of that negotiation, obviously, in those cases, would be the buyer's representatives' fees of service. So that's it in a nutshell. There's more to it, but that's it in a nutshell. The reasoning is again that with the lawsuits and everything else that came about, there needs to be more transparency on how everyone was compensated. I personally thought our contracts in California previously, if done properly and explained properly, already covered these things. I'm not sure about other states, and that I'm only speaking of my own personal experiences with our contracts in California. But that's no longer the case. This is what it is now, and it is now, not in the future, but now. And we move on from there. So hopefully, you make sure as an agent and as a consumer that it's a good fit with the listing agent and or the buyer's agent that you're working with, that you have confidence in him or her, that they shown you they have the ability to help you achieve your goal, and that you feel comfortable with that person moving forward. Agents, it's the same thing on your side. You want to make sure that as you are working with people, working with clients, that you have a good enough relationship with, that you can help them achieve their goals, and that you guys are able to work together. This does not have to be an adversary type of a thing. It's for transparency. And then once we get escrow opened and all that, we go from there. Yes, sellers, buyers can still ask for you to pay their closing costs or some of it. All those things have to be put into the offer. And the sellers, in my opinion, and any seller that works with the Ultimate Bar Walker team, prior to accepting any offers, which we did anyway before, is we will run net sheets. So you'll see exactly what's going where, what is what, and what the bottom line is that you feel comfortable with accepting. And then we move forward. If you have questions, you can reach out to me directly. You should have questions. But we look forward to working with you. The professional real estate agents out here who are learning and looking to do the right thing are excited about this opportunity to provide more professionalism to you. And we look forward to assisting. Have a blessed day. There'll be much more to come.